this virtual analysts and brokers meet of Max Healthcare on the occasion of our listing at the BSE and NSE today. My name is Tanushree. Max Healthcare Institute Limited is one of India's leading providers of healthcare services. It is committed to the highest standards of clinical excellence and patient care, supported by latest technology and cutting-edge research. We have with us today our chairman and managing director, Mr. Abhay Soy, who will share the salient features of the company and strategic drivers for the future. Before I invite Mr. Soy, we would like to share a few guidelines for the smooth progression of the event. I would request all participants to place their mics on mute here on. We will take questions post the management's address, if you have any. For any query or question, I would request you to either use the raise of hand feature on the Zoom control panel or type on the chat Q&A window with your name and company's name. I would now request Mr. Abhay Soy to address the participants. Over to you, sir.
So very good evening, and thank you for being on this call today. And it's a momentous day for us, as you know, because it's a day of listing of our amalgamated entity, Radiant and Max, and here on it's going to be called Max Health. So I'd very quickly like to take you through a presentation, and after that, like Anushree said, we will can have a little bit of a Q&A. So essentially what is emerging now as in the combined entity is the second largest hospital chain in India. We have 17 facilities, a capacity of 3,400 beds, 4,400 clinicians and 15,000 plus employees. Max Healthcare has a 4,000 plus crore sales top line. And perhaps we were fortunate enough that in spite of the pandemic, our Q4 numbers grew, as far as revenues are concerned, grew over Q3 as well. We are predominantly focused in the Delhi NCR region, and we have 85% of our capacity in Delhi NCR, and we have a large facility in Mumbai as well. So a large proportion of our facilities are in our metro center. Our intention, our vision is to be the most well-regarded healthcare player in India. The term well-regarded means
Can we please have everyone on mute? Thank you.
The term well-regarded means different things to different stakeholders. To investors, it's about our strong corporate governance, which we intend to strive for. Profitable growth, is just not about creating grand dreams and visions and walking into uncharted territory. We are very conscious about our efficiency as well as profitability and a healthy balance sheet. I think it's important, and particularly in times like this, not to be over leveraged and be consistent with the health of our balance sheet. As far as employees are concerned, we are coming up with a new ESOP plan, so essentially they will be rewarded by growth. This is a constant pursuit on our part. It is a collaborative approach in management. We've been fortunate enough to have the best of Radiant, the best of Max, as well as many people who joined us from other enterprises through this whole amalgamation process. In terms of clinicians, we are providing, we have first dibs on pretty much the best talent within the Delhi NCR region. And this is primarily because, we have perhaps, 3 times the number of hospitals as our second largest competitor over there, which gives us access to both clinicians as well as patients. Delhi NCR, as you are aware, is very attractive simply because it not only drains North India, but Northeast, Central India, as well as 40% of all medical tourism which seems to come to India. In terms of our patients, we are focused on having a patient-centric approach, which is a very transparent approach with our patients in terms of billing and otherwise. The best of global best practices, and really looking at best clinical outcomes through our quaternary care facilities. Oncology is our mainstay, which is 16% of our business. We have 12% is cardiology. We have a very, very robust solid organ transplant program, and perhaps the third or fourth largest bone marrow transplant program in the world. We are operating at the highest end of super specialties. Our journey has been hasn't been very long, but it's been quite rapid. In 2010, when I got into healthcare, we were essentially 4 employees, no hospitals, no revenue, then no valuation, so to say. And in 10 years, from 4 to now, we are 20 odd thousand employees. We are a 4,000 plus crore revenue and $1.5 billion or close market capitalization of at least today's stock price. So it's been a rapid growth, and I think a characteristic of this growth has been consolidation and coming into at the assets at the right time, and essentially focusing on our core competence, which is unlocking value in whatever we've done. Our journey started with BLK Hospital in Delhi, which we commissioned. Thereafter, Nanavati Hospital, which was a deep restructuring, and thereafter you've seen Max over the last 1 year, where we've been able to unlock a significant amount of value, but have a lot more to come as well. The journey of Max itself has been fairly long, I think, over the last 2 decades, where they've really been able to create world-class assets. But this merger is essentially an amalgamation of the 2 companies and the 2 styles of working as well. So we've had a strong operational performance, as you can see. You've seen the numbers over the last 1 year as well. What we started off as bottom of the class, Q2, Q3, Q4, we've significantly overperformed the rest of the sector, both in terms of revenue per bed and EBITDA per bed, as well as EBITDA margin. Again, I think we were the rare company where Q4 revenue, besides EBITDA, grew over Q3 in spite of COVID. So we are very certain that even in Q1 this year, we will be outperforming the sector. So we're quite, and going forward as well. So we're quite confident about that. Our debt levels at this point of time, March 31 at least, were about 1,500 crores of net debt. Our liquidity position is quite good. Even through the worst of pandemic that we've seen through now, our liquidity position did not really deteriorate, and we really lost EBITDA only in the month of April. Thereafter, we've been fairly consistently going upwards. As you're aware, this entire transaction, has been amalgamation, like I said before, which started by us purchasing, Radiant purchasing 49.7% stake from Life South Africa, and subsequently demerging and merging along with the healthcare business of Max to create one specialized and focused entity on healthcare. And today, post the merger, we have, I will have about 23.3% of the company and stand as the promoter, while KKR, which is the largest shareholder, has about 52% and will be the co-promoter of the company going forward. So essentially, I think we've emerged now as, so the restructuring is done, it's complete. There are no holding companies. This is a pure play hospital company which is listed now. Board, so I chair the board. I'm also the managing director of the company. We have 2 nominees from KKR, Mr. Sanjay Nair, who is, the CEO of KKR, as well as Ananya Tripathi. Other than that, a majority of our directors are independent directors in doing with, the highest standards of corporate governance. We have Mr. Lodha, who is a very renowned chartered accountant, with Mr. UK Sinha, who is the former SEBI chairman, Mr. Michael Neem, who is the former president of HCA till about a couple of years back. HCA is one of the largest healthcare companies in the world, the largest in the US for certain. And we have Mr. Narasimha Murthy, who again, a very renowned chartered accountant, who also has been the former board member of IDFC, UTI, and so on. Our key strengths going forward. We are a leading brand in the very attractive Delhi NCR market. In terms of the brand positioning, is really a gold standard over there. We are present in the most attractive micro markets, we believe, in India, Delhi and Mumbai, where the number of beds available versus the affordable population again is the largest. Also, cities which are connected to 70% of the world's population by 7.5 hours of direct flying. So makes it very interesting for medical tourism. Also, the local connectivity with smaller towns, particularly for the high-end services that we provide, makes it easier for people to travel over there. And we also believe that, the best of medical talent does reside in metros. So it makes it easier for us to navigate through that. I think other than that, we have extremely valuable land banks, both in Delhi and Mumbai. In our network in Mumbai, we have now a permission to build a 600-bed hospital at Nanavati, while in Delhi, it is a 350-bed hospital that we are creating at our Max Saket, plus a superstructure for another 300 beds. In the next 4 to 5 years, while we are constructing these brownfield projects at a cost of about 1,300 crores, these brownfield projects are expected to come online after 5 years. But during these 5 years as well, we have some key, we have a lot of road left for us with capacity. Both in terms of moving our occupancies from the present 72-73% to 81-82%. Some of our hospitals already operate at 82-83% consistently. Have been doing so for the last couple of years. But we also have 35% of our capacity, which is focused on or is currently catering to the government business, which is at a 40% discount to our rack rates. We are intending to also reposition this in the sense that we will distill this payer mix going forward so that this capacity also caters to business which offers us hospital rack rates, which is essentially the insurance patients or the walk-in patients and the international patients. We have a proven track record of M&As and turnarounds, as you have seen from our history, and we intend to continue on this journey and look at value accretive options, in our geographical markets, and we will be looking at these if they're value accretive and they offer critical size in our geography. We will be looking at them quite consciously. I think other than that, you've seen a robust financial performance in the past, through structural cost savings and so on. We intend to continue on this program. It's not done as yet. And, there are also significant synergies between the two chains, which should come to bear now that we emerged as of 1st of June. So we're looking at that, we're looking to tap on those. And clearly, we've been able to create perhaps the best organization or the management team out there, which has been instrumental in giving the sort of results that we've been able to over the last 1 year. So we have a fairly large dynamic management team. It is led by me, but we have people from who've been at have been leading professionals in their particular verticals, whether it is Yogesh Sareen, who's our CFO, or Dilip Badani, who looks after our finance. He was a former CFO at Dr. Lal's. We also have a path lab business, which is very interesting, which we intend to build on going forward. Is the third largest path lab business in the Delhi NCR region. Dr. Mridul Kaushik, Colonel Chahal. Again, Dr. Kaushik has been with us since the very beginning. Colonel Chahal used to be the CEO of NCR for Fortis prior to joining us. And, it's a very, very strong management team that we have. Again, academics is something which is very close to our heart. Dr. Vinita Jha is there. She looks after our academics and research. We have Dr. Indrayan, who is a biostatistician, and he has written more than 240 publications locations. We are teaching. Most of our hospitals are teaching hospitals, as well as we have focused on clinical research and trials as well. Just through the COVID period itself, we've come up with 40 clinical trials that we participated in. Our clinical directorate is led by Dr. Sandeep Budhiraja, who is one of the most well-renowned clinicians in the country. And you would have seen even through the COVID crisis, we've stood apart as far as both the public and private sector hospitals are concerned. And we've now emerged as the preferred place for COVID, and this is really an endorsement for our clinical programs and the pursuit of excellence that the hospital chain has been in the forefront of. So in conclusion, it's we believe it's a extremely sustainable and interesting story that we have. We have a sort of a startup culture within the organization. It's a young organization at the point of inflection. It's not as if we are too mature or in our infancy. So therefore, it is a very interesting period that we are in right now. We are in a market which is massively underpenetrated, both in India. We're very well positioned to take care of the medical tourism market globally, because clearly there will be search for value with respect to medical tourism. Most economies, most wallet shares have shrunk because of the COVID crisis, and there will be search for value. If there's one thing which India provides, and we have a massive comparative advantage, is medical tourism, not only in terms of our skill sets with respect to the kind of complexities and volumes of business that our doctors perform, but also the cost we are able to do it at. So I think that should bode us well. I think our assets are best in class, and we are prevalent in the most attractive micro markets of Delhi and Mumbai, and therefore you'll see our average revenue per occupied beds are significantly higher than anybody else's, and so is our EBITDA margins per beds, and the way it's been ramping up. Again, we have a proven track record along with best in class management, and I think that is really the key to years to come. And I think this story is not about it's just kind of catching steam right now, and you will see the next decade we will be outperforming perhaps what we did in the previous one decade. So our strategy going forward is, firstly, would be to optimize the existing network that we have. Like I mentioned, we have a 72-73% was the occupancy pre-COVID. It's now up to about 67-68%. It had gone down to 28% during COVID, in fact. But we are going to look at ramping this up to its 80s. Thereafter, within we need to distill our capacity utilization, the payer mix from again the 35% of the capacity presently, which is catering to the government business at a 40% discount. We need to move away from that, so we have the ability to do that, and all of that should drop to the bottom line again over the next 4 to 5 years. Other than that, ALOS is something that we are looking at focusing on. We believe there can be incremental improvements over there, perhaps shave off about 10 to 15%. So therefore, increase our capacity by that much over the next 4 to 5 years. And by the time we plateau out in these 4 to 5 years through these measures, our new capacity through the brownfield should be online. So clearly, I think that is one, as far as the top line is concerned. As far as cost optimization is concerned, we've been running a very robust program, again, which was demonstrated in the last 3 quarters or 4 quarters, and I think we will be continuing with those. Other than that, I think we are looking at the brownfield expansion that I mentioned, and partnering for asset-light models through O&Ms with REITs. Clearly, we see the two sort of investors which are emerging. There's been a segregation of sorts. There are the growth investors, and then there are the yield investors. And it makes sense for us to partner with various REITs, developers, and so on, in order to take away both the real estate construction risk, as well as the onerous 4 to 5 years of construction period, which has a bearing on our ROCs and on our balance sheet. So by taking that away and getting into long-term leases, once those properties are prepared, will do us well. I think other than that, we are also looking at opportunistically, we will be looking at inorganic growth opportunities like we have in the past, but these will be again something which will be at moving into newer geographies necessarily, but stick to our core geographies, particularly the 2 metros that we are in, and look at value accretive propositions over there. The pandemic itself has taken a turn on most balance sheets, and efficiencies of most healthcare players will come out, or the inefficiencies will be shown during this period. And we believe we will be well positioned to take care of that consolidation as well. I think other than that, we also have, the lab business. Like I mentioned, we are a established brand in the Delhi NCR region. We are also the third largest path lab business. We have 1,000+ people working in our laboratories who have been providing consistent results and dependable results, whether it's with respect to histopathology or any other high-end service, not only necessarily the low-end blood tests and so on and so forth. And we believe, it is time that we moved it into a separate vertical and be able to build on this business, because, the fundamentals are there. We perhaps just need to build some retail presence in the Delhi NCR. So our COVID response has been quite interesting. During this COVID period, whilst most, I think, players hesitated, we came into the eye of the storm very early on. We volunteered at a hospital in Mumbai, Nanavati, and our flagship in Delhi, Max Saket, to COVID. We have now, we have treated more than 7,000 COVID patients in our hospital. We've done we participated in more than 40 clinical trials. The first convalescent plasma therapy was done in a hospital. We've done more than 400 of them now. And clearly, I think we are the preferred place for COVID treatment, both in West as well as Northern India. So it is a huge endorsement of our clinical programs and our approach. But fiscally also, we've been quite prudent during this period. We ensured that our liquidity position as well as the net debt position did not deteriorate through this, and we did that through focusing on collection from the government. The government was also very helpful in terms of releasing our tax payments as well as our other collections from the government. And other than the month of April, where we perhaps had a EBITDA loss, and a bit of May as well, but the rest of the period, the rest of May, June, July, and so on, we've been positive, and we believe the worst is behind us. So coming out of this crisis at this point in time, we are 67-68% capacity utilization, 75 to 80% of which is now non-COVID. The COVID pandemic hit the metros first, but now we believe it is going to tier 2, tier 3 cities. So from our vantage point, at least, the worst is behind us, and we believe perhaps Q4 is when sometime in Q4 when the normalcy may come back, and the following year should be a normal year. So thank you. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, sir. The question and answer session is open. It's a request if you could either use the raise of hand feature or type on the window with your name and company's name. Right, so we have Mr. Jay Modi. Maybe we could have the first question from him. So you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, congratulations, sir, on successful listing.
Thank you.
I had a question around debt. So we would have certain plans of cash generation and then paring off our debt, but given the current situation of pandemic and also the struggling situation of cash generation, how do we look at the debt scenario going forward?
So we're quite comfortable as far as the debt is concerned, even if we look at our numbers last year. So we have about 100 to 120 crores of maintenance capex every year. So if I look at the past 12 months in the last year, at least, after covering that as well as our interest, we had 220 crores surplus cash last year, which we generated. And of course, this is after the one-time transaction expenses, etc., after taking those out. So we feel we are fairly comfortable in terms of our debt position. Out of the 1,500 crores of net debt that we have, 620 crores is a cumulative debt where we don't pay interest right now. We will be paying that after a period of 2 years. And, or we have the option of in a bullet payment, or we have the option of prepaying that as well. But we don't have to service it on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis. So, given our current cash position, and you would have seen the March numbers, at least we had some 426 crores of cash lying in our hand. We find it, and like I said, the EBITDA negative period is clearly behind us. So we believe that, the rest of the year should be fine, and, liquidity is not going to be a problem. We may not be able to necessarily reduce the debt much in the present year. from the current standards, but nor is there really a necessity. We have about 37 or 33 crores of repayments in the next 12 months, because it's a long-term 15-year debt, 13 years are still out there. We have a repayment amortization of about 33 crores, I think, over the next 12 months, and about 75, 77 crores in the subsequent 12 months after that.
Okay. Okay. And secondly, so when we look at other hospital chains, we've seen that a lot of them struggle to generate return on capital beyond 17-18%. But yours being the only one which is fairly concentrated in metro, unlike others. So in your opinion, what would be a normalized return on capital that a chain like yours could achieve in longer run?
Let me answer you a little differently. If I normalize for the last 10 days of the pandemic, as you're aware, you may have seen from our presentation, the pandemic hit us on the 21st of March. But if I was to normalize for 21st of March, just for the last 10 days of the pandemic, then we were in line for a 19% EBITDA margin in Q4. If I look at a 19% EBITDA margin and look at the total capital employed in the business, I think there's about 3,600 crores of capital which has been employed in the business. But this is, of course, I'm not taking any Ind AS adjustments, and I'm not taking any revaluation of our shares, considering we purchase shares from Life South Africa. I'm talking about pure money into the business. I think you'll get the number on a 4,000 crore top line if you have a 19% this thing. And clearly, 19% is not where we were looking to stop at.
Okay, got it.
So I think also I want to tell you is this is also a function of two things. Okay, one, like you said, we are metro centric, so clearly I believe it's a lot more forgiving, and you are able to drive higher EBITDA margins out of metro, and just purely in terms of value, not only percentage but in terms of value, rupees per bed as well, which can allow for higher return on capital, as well as the timing of we haven't really done any greenfields, as you are aware, and it's through consolidation. So coming in at the right time is also important. So our story has been more about unlocking, restructuring, commissioning, not really about building the assets out. And I believe building it out over a 4 to 5 year period, that can be onerous on a balance sheet.
Okay, that's very helpful, sir. And my last question was around medical tourism. So when you said that you expect things to normalize from the coming year onwards, so does that hold true for medical tourism as well?
So I think, look, medical tourism, it's very difficult, and given the pandemic, it's very difficult to, pinpoint the exact quarter, exact month when that is likely to happen. But let me just kind of answer this a little differently. In the short run, clearly, shutting down of flights and, travel, okay, is clearly going to affect medical tourism, because even if somebody wants to come, they can't come. But over the medium run, if you look at it, I think there are two things which have emerged through it. Firstly, people don't come to India for medical tourism for cosmetic surgery or for executive health checkups, for which they may go to Thailand and other places. They come to India for oncology surgeries, liver transplant, kidney, and serious stuff. Neurosurgery, spine surgeries, etc. And they don't come to India. The class socioeconomic strata which is coming to India is not the highest. And these are people from the poorest part of the world, African cluster, Eastern Europe, and so on. And they're not coming out of choice; they're coming out of compulsion. Either you come here or you're pretty much wasting away in whichever place you're in. So I believe there will be a lot of latent demand, in fact, when it opens up. And secondly, the current crisis, most balance sheets of most nations and companies, people and nations, etc., have shrunk. One of the biggest purchasers of medical tourism has been worldwide, has been all the oil economies, and clearly they've also taken a bit of battering over here. So there will be a surge towards value, and there is no other place which provides better value for medical tourism than India compared to any other place in the world. So it's, so other destinations for medical tourism, I think India's pie of the total trade is going to increase significantly compared to others, because there will be strain on wallets and there will be a search of value. And secondly, I think, people are coming they're not coming out of choice. They're coming because they have to.
Great. Thanks a lot, sir, and all the best for your future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Modi. We have next in line Mr. Prakash Agarwal, who's raised his hand. Mr. Agarwal?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon. So my first question is on the one clarity basically. So the Max brand. So do we get to keep the Max brand going forward, or there is some corporate expense which is been there already and is likely to be there for going forward? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the Max brand is going to be with us. There is no corporate expense or royalty or payment or any cost to that. It was a part of the transaction.
Okay, wonderful.
So, yeah, so and this not only applies to the hospital but also to the laboratory business, home care business, and so on.
Perfect. And secondly, if I see your slide, so there is a mention about debt. So there is a 744 and there is a 1500, and it also talk about put option and some of the trust payables.
Yes.
So how do we look at? So what is this 1744 is the gross debt, or what exactly is? How is it different from 1500? And if we look at comparable companies, what is the debt we should look at? I mean, do we add the put option? How should we think about your net debt?
So I think there are two ways to. First and foremost, the difference between a present net debt of 1500 and the 1746 or whatever number that you're speaking about, okay, is essentially the Ind AS accounting for Ind AS 116 accounting for the debt. So essentially, what happens is that the revenue share that you have to pay or the leases that you have to pay over the, let's say, next 50 years is the present value of that. So it's a notional debt from that standpoint. It's not debt that we are servicing on a year-to-year basis, right?
Okay.
So
that's 1500 is the
1500 is the net debt. Okay, so 1500 is the net debt that we have, including the cash in hand. So net debt is 1500. Other than this, we have a 586 crores of put options, of which 100 crores belongs to Crossley. It was a minority stake, and 486 belong to the Modi Saket Hospital. We were to close the deal before 31st of March in the present year. And we were able to negotiate a 90 crore discount on that. So it was 486 plus 90 crores previously. And, because the banking system went into shutdown, KKR stepped in at that point in time, and they are warehousing this debt at a no cost basis. So, we're not paying them any interest or any returns on this. They're just warehousing it. At present, there is no interest on it. But over the next few months, we will be taking on debt in our books and going to be acquiring these. So you can very well add the 586, okay, from that standpoint to the 1500, and therefore you reach a 2086 number, which should be the debt, let's say, in another 2, 3, 4 months as the net debt.
Okay, fair enough. And okay, and the trust debt is more like a payable, so it should not be a part of that. It's
absolutely
more of a disclosure, right?
Absolutely. That's over the next 45 years. That's where Ind AS.
Okay, and just one last one. If I go to look at your, pure EBITDA, so in your presentation, you talked about 587 crores.
Yes.
You have this one-time cost that you have added, 43 crores, and there is so on a post-Ind AS basis, if you look at the, reported number, what would the number be? Would it be near 500 crores?
No, so look, I think it's post-Ind AS, it is 587. Pre-Ind AS, it would be 540 or something. 545. The 43 that you're looking at is the one-time transaction expenses. This whole merger, etc., also cost us money, which has been a one-time transaction expense.
Okay, because last year also it was there, right? So 18, 19, 19,
yes,
20.
Yes. So you're going to have a transaction expense because, the multiple transactions which have happened. And, the stamp duty will come into the present year as well. So there'll be some stamp duty implication in the current year. So, this transaction is on for a while as well, right?
Okay. So when you talk about this 19%, these are all adjusted numbers.
This is adjusted number.
Okay.
19% is adjusted for one-time expenses.
Understood. So my question actually on fiscal 22, as you mentioned that, from fiscal 22, you expect the years to be normal starting Q4 of this financial year. Mm-hmm. So would it be fair to say that you will be at least, around this 17-18% pure margins? Would that be fair given your hospitals, you mentioned ARPOB, Metrocentric. So 18 to 19% would be a fair number to look at going forward?
Frankly, we're not giving forward-looking projections, and particularly at a time like this, is very, very difficult to do that. What I can tell you is, there are more synergies all the synergy, firstly, all the savings that we did in the last year, all of it did not get banked in the last year because we did not get the full 12 months benefit. Therefore, you see Q4 is better than the previous quarters because Q4 had all the benefits come in. This year, there are a significant amount of synergies and savings planned as well. All of it may not get banked in the current year. Some may go into the next year. But that's about it that I can tell you. It's very difficult to actually for us to project on revenues and stuff.
Fair enough. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. The next in queue is Mr. Krishnendu Shah. Sir, your questions, please.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question.
Hi.
Just had a couple of questions. On your gross revenue of the numbers 43 something. How much is related to 443 crores? How much of this is related to pharmacy and related to Path Lab? Is there a breakup for that?
No, it's our entire business is intrinsic. We don't have a separate pharmacy business, and we don't have a separate this thing that we're doing. So it's all a part of the same.
It's all part of the process. Really part of
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. And you spoke about shaving a little bit of the average length of stay. So, how do you propose to do that? Because to increase the capacity, you would want to do that. So, any thoughts on that? And if you could tie up the fact that why is our ARPOB so higher compared to Apollo or Fortis? Fortis name is no more there. But what is the clincher for us?
I think, I love to say we do better work, but, the fact is that we have 85% capacity in metros, which is a significantly higher proportion compared to Fortis and to Apollo. So if you actually normalize for that, you will see pretty much everybody's coming on the same thing. So, we have less number of beds in tier 2, tier 3 cities. We have a higher percentage, 85% compared to anybody else in metros. That is the answer for this thing. As far as ALOS is concerned, you can't really compare one enterprise with the other. What you have to do is you have to compare one clinical program versus the other. The fact that we have 17 facilities, we can compare within the 17 and similarly place clinical programs. And therefore, we believe that, when we do benchmarking internally, the best in class, there is a 10 to 15% shave which is possible in the average length of stay. And clearly, as you're aware, you improve your 3,400 beds, we improve our ALOS by 10%. We would have effectively added 350 beds.
Right. Okay, and your breakup of your transplant robotics, which I see from your presentation. So these are all high-end, mostly it'll be a specialty type of operations and stay, right?
That's right.
Yep. Thanks. I'll get back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saha. We have more questions.
There's one in the chat.
I can see the chat window is also empty. Any more raise of hands? Very well then. Well, thank you so much. I think that was the last question for this session.
Thank you.
I would like to thank all of you. And so any closing remarks to conclude the meet?
So thank you. Appreciate you being on this call. It was a momentous day for us. This gong on the lighter note, sounded like a starter gun to us. And, we intend to be on this track and continue the momentum going. What I can promise you is that, we will be pursuing the highest levels of corporate governance. And, we will create the best in class enterprise. That I have no doubt about. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that's indeed encouraging. And thank you all for joining us. Have a great weekend ahead. Good evening.
Thank you.